And now to Republican presidential candidate Senator Ted Cruz. He picked up a crucial win in Utah overnight and just this morning got a major endorsement from his one-time rival, Jeb Bush. He's also facing some criticism this morning over comments he made in response to the terror attacks in Brussels. Senator Cruz, good morning. It's good to have you with us.
Good morning. Great to be with you.
Normally, I'd start an interview like this after you won a big victory last night in Utah, saying congratulations, and I do.
Well, thank you.
And you picked up an endorsement. But given what's happening in Brussels, let's start there. Let's talk about that. And let me start where we just mentioned. You said yesterday in a Facebook post that we need to empower law enforcement to patrol and secure Muslim neighborhoods before they become radicalized. How would you define a Muslim neighborhood? Is there a certain percentage of Muslims that have to live there? And do you have to have any particular suspicion that they're being radicalized? Or is it just the mere fact that they're Muslims, in your mind, means police officers should be securing and patrolling those areas?
Well, let's start out with what happened in Brussels yesterday. All of us, our thoughts, our prayers are with those who were murdered, those who were injured. Yesterday, I think, reminded everyone, really underscored, that we are facing a war. And this was not an isolated lone wolf. This was not an isolated incident. Radical Islamic terrorism, ISIS, has declared jihad on the United States of America.
There's no question about that. And I guess the issue this morning is the response and trying to understand what it is you're recommending.
Although, Savannah, let me point out, you say there's no question about that. Let me tell you who disagrees with you. Barack Obama disagrees with you. Hillary Clinton disagrees with you. The entire Obama administration refuses to utter the words radical Islamic terrorism. And one of the reasons that America remains so vulnerable is that this administration is mired in political correctness. It will not acknowledge this threat. And so when it comes to law enforcement, proactive law enforcement, you know, here in New York City, under Mayor Bloomberg, there was a proactive policing program to work cooperatively with the Muslim community to prevent radicalization, to target and find out who may be affiliated with radical Islamic terrorism, who may be becoming radicalized, and to stop terror plots before they occur. Mayor de Blasio, in an example of political correctness very befitting of Obama and Hillary Clinton, canceled the program, said we're not going to target the bad guys because they will not acknowledge.
You cite that program, but it, of course, has been disbanded. And a former supervisor of that program said that in 6 years it never led to even one piece of intelligence, not an arrest, not a conviction. In fact, this supervisor was quoted as saying that it involved paying undercover officers to sit in cafes frequented by Muslims, drinking tea and eating sweets at taxpayer expense.
Look, what I know is if you want to stop radical Islamic terrorism, you need a concerted focus on doing so. Any law enforcement, like for example, if you have a problem with gang violence, what law enforcement does with gang violence is you target the neighborhoods where gang violence is prevalent, and you work to root out the gang members.
That goes to my question. Would you then, so for example, and you're saying gang violence, you look where is there gang violence? We'll go patrol those neighborhoods. When you talk about patrolling Muslim neighborhoods, would you require some suspicion of radicalization before you patrol the neighborhoods?
What I'm talking about is focusing law enforcement and national security resources on areas, on locations where there is a higher incidence of radical Islamic terrorism. One of the tragic reasons we saw this attack yesterday in Brussels is that Europe's failed immigration laws have allowed vast numbers of radical Islamic terrorists to come into Europe.
Before I let you go, I have to ask you about a series of tweets that went back and forth between you and Donald Trump last night. He criticized you, falsely I might add, for putting up an ad that featured his wife Melania in GQ magazine in a state of undress. And then he added that you should lay off his wife, and if not, he's going to spill the beans on your wife. It seems like a threat against your wife, and you took it that way.
This is a pattern with Donald Trump. When he's unhappy, when he's scared, he lashes out. He yells, he screams, he often curses, and he threatens people. Donald is a bully. And I told him last night, don't you try to attack my wife. Look, Donald is unhappy that he got clobbered last night in Utah. It wasn't even close. He lost by 69%. Utah was now the 10th state where we've beaten Donald Trump. So what does he do? He tries to change the subject. And the way he tries to change the subject is by lashing out and attacking my wife. Now, I'm not going to stoop to that level.
I know you're not responsible for the ad that featured Melania Trump, but do you think it's inappropriate?
It's not something I would have done. And Donald's trying to threaten my wife. speaks volumes about character.
Senator Cruz, good to have you with us this morning.
Hello, Today fans. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking that button down there and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives.